Let's talk about the reality of what you tweeted, that the Rays have been granted permission by Major League Baseball to essentially call two cities home, Tampa and Montreal. I find it a fascinating idea. What's the reality it's going to happen?
I very much appreciated the fact, Trey, that you saw the I'm not going to call it brilliance because that's going a little too far. But there is some brilliance in this idea, which is trying to solve two different problems, one of which has festered on for a really, really long time right now, and the other that's extremely difficult to solve. And the one that's festered along for a long time right now is, there's no baseball in Montreal. And there should be. And the one that's really difficult to solve is how do you placate what's going on down in Tampa where they just cannot draw fans to games and get a stadium built. Like, it's a hard problem to take care of. And the fact that they're at least trying to be novel here makes me think that they're trying to save baseball down in the Tampa Bay area.
So I guess the bottom line is will they succeed, or will within a decade Tampa Bay not have baseball?
I think it's a really reasonable question, Mike. And if I'm betting right now, I think there are so many hurdles to go over in this particular plan that doing so is going to take an immense stroke of luck. But I also think that as the process goes along, and I think it's going to be revealed that this is not just posturing, that this is not just the Rays trying to extract funding for a stadium, but an actual real idea. I think as time goes on and people see that, it's going to become a little bit more realistic that the whole thing actually gets done.
Incredible. We're talking to Jeff Passan, our ESPN Major League Baseball insider in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And I guess to that extent, Jeff, just because it's been so long since we've seen it and we just got done with the NBA Finals up in Canada, is the appetite for baseball at that point again in Montreal to where we think it could sustain something like this and really thrive? Oh, it appears we have lost Jeff Passan.
We lost Jeff. We'll try and get him back. But what's really interesting as we try and get him back, the thing that I took away from his conversation is he thinks it's actually plausible.
Yeah, I would say
that's not just a negotiating tool.
I thought for sure it was just a threat.
I don't see this happening at all. I'll be honest with you.
All right, Jeff, you're back with us, right? So I Junior was asking about the idea of how much is the appetite for baseball in Montreal right now.
I mean, it depends on who you talk with. If you bring Ariel Helwani on this morning, and you should give him a call because as wonderful as he is talking about UFC, he is a bigger Expos fan than anything. So if you ask a guy like Ariel, he believes that there is plenty there to sustain a baseball team full time, and he might be right. Like, we saw how they drew in those exhibition games in recent years. I mean, like, selling out stadiums, and not like small stadiums either. We're talking like, I think it was like 48,000 a game. So you've certainly gotten a sense of what it can be. I think there are also still some concerns that are lingering from the last time there was baseball in Montreal. And I think that you can rationalize it by saying, well, yeah, of course it was terrible last time we were here. Jeffrey Loria was our owner. And wouldn't you be depressed to not show up if Jeffrey Loria was your owner too? And the answer is like, yeah, it's a pretty fair point. So there is a corporate base there. There is potentially a fan base. You're in a city of more than 3 million people, in an environment that's been starved for baseball for 20-something years now. And that's going back to like when, Loria took over the team. when you have all of those things put together, Montreal is, in my mind, a viable full-time baseball market. But I think what the Rays believe is that if you shrink the season down to half of the games, it's going to turn into one of those situations where the demand is even greater. And that limited supply is something that can make that ticket worth even more.
Yeah, I agree. I think that part of it is absolutely fascinating, and I'm curious what the Players Association. I mean, when they go forward, how much will they be a part of this discussion?
Yeah, honestly, Trey, that's the part of this that intrigues me the most, and I think it's the part of it that people have the biggest problem with, because we associate baseball with 81 home games and 81 road games. And that is the idea that is ingrained in our head, when in reality, there are some markets out there that could do better, I think, with 40 home games. There are some markets that, honestly, I live in one of them. I live in Kansas City, and I know the Royals stink right now. I get that. But I also think that if there were half the home games here, the size of the market, the demand for the tickets, all of these things put together, and you wonder if it would have more of an event feel if you didn't think that you could go to it every single day, every other week for 6 months.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.